continue. So again, welcome everyone. Good morning to some of you. Good day, good afternoon, good evening. We're also seeing the faces from the morning, so it's good to see you here again as well. We have I did share the proposed agenda via email and also on the channels before. So let's go briefly over it just to are you seeing my screen? Yeah. Is it the right window?
Yeah, it's the right one. It's the right one.
All right, awesome. So in the morning, essentially the goal was that we wanted to chat about the experiences to date between our last meeting that took place probably at this point a couple months ago. So I think two main topics. The first one is from the vantage point of view more broadly. That's where we can begin in terms of like how challenge teams have been doing. I think we've seen a number of really good closeout reports as of past couple of weeks. So it's quite a timely topic as well. And then the other side of it is the pilot, which was introduced in Fund 9 especially for the reviewing of the milestones. And we've had some of those conversations in the morning as well. Then it is going to be a very free-flowing conversation between these two main topics. And then also later in the hour, we did similar in the morning. So I would suggest at 45-minute mark from the hour, we can have a presentation by Stephen on the remuneration of the challenge teams. If Stephen, I think I saw you there. Are you ready for it as well?
Yeah, I mean, we can have I just could do the one slide on that we discussed in the morning and then maybe just go into discussion, general discussion maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll leave it up to you. Other than that, we have there's a Miro link. Let me see if that's already, no, it's not. So like I'll drop it in the chat. It's the Miro board that we've been using in many of the other retrospectives. So you'll be probably seeing a lot of things from the previous sessions. This is the one that we'll be using today as well. The edit access is enabled throughout the day today. So you'll be able to add stickies or information. Again, not everybody may be in the mood of speaking today or comfortable with that, and that's totally fine. You can either leverage the chat or then directly share some of the stickies or thoughts that may not be aired directly during the call into the board. Hopefully the edit access works. Let's not remove or delete all the other stuff. Let's keep it there for posterity, but feel free to add into the board for today's session and any of the topics as you will see fit. So it's in the chat and it should be enabled. And after today, we will lock it down just so that, again, there's no like uncontrolled deletions so that we can capture that and build upon from there. And so that's everything from me. Chris, anything else you want to add before we open the floor and start listening?
No, I mean, the only thing to add is I wouldn't mind, as I said earlier, if Lucio would be able to have like 5 minutes or so to demo the interface that we've been spinning up for Statement of Milestones, but we'll see how we get on with time.
Okay. All right, so how about so Stephen will be at 45, so how about like 35, like 30 minutes from now, we can probably have a look maybe at the milestones module, and until then, let's somehow some free-flowing conversation and juicy. So let's start more broadly, how the experience has been recently as of the challenge teams. What are the types of opportunities and things that you see that are happening? And then we can slowly drill into the milestones for the proof of reviewing of the milestones as well. So anyone wants to kick off, feel free to do so. And if it will help you with inspiration, there's like 4 topics how you can approach it. Like maybe there's something that you've seen that hasn't been very useful, you can bring it up, or something that has gone well. So you can anchor any of those suggestions in potentially in any of those 4 segments in here, or anything that will work in your way. So feel free.
You know, Danny, there was an old thing I learned in Business 101 is that when you lead a team or you're part of a leading team, you have to be like a pilot. And challenge team members, I see are like that. We have a very good takeoff and usually a good landing, but it's all that stuff in the middle that's not going so well. We kind of lose, or in Fund 8 anyway, some of us, we lost contact with our members, our constituency. And I don't think they really knew what the challenge teams were about, but we had a great takeoff and we had a good closeout. So I think we need to somewhat focus all that stuff in the middle.
Chris, do you have it in front of you? Can you help capture the notes as we?
Yep, will be. Tommy, just go over that point one more time. Apologies, I wasn't capturing it at the time. So.
Well, it's like an airline pilot. You know, you're off course 99% of the time, but you got to have a great takeoff, which I think the Fund 8 challenge team did with our members. And we had a good landing. We got them all wrapped up and we did a closeout report. But in the middle of the flight where we were off course, I think challenge teams need to have a better methodology for contacting and helping, the projects along where we can. I think we got weak in that middle part of the process.
Got it.
All right, just to reorient a little bit, I think for this afternoon session, so there's one which was in the morning. You will see these 4 quadrants. Feel free to check it out and see what the topic of the conversation and what was important for that room. And what we'll do, I think, if that makes sense, we're going to be reorienting here so we can have a fresh space for the people in the room today, right now. So feel free to check it out, what the conversation was there, and then we can also make it unique to the people on this call as well. So hope that's helpful. Thank you, Tommy. Vanessa?
Yeah, I'd echo what Tommy was saying, but one thing I think is really important when we're devising what that middle bit looks like is, I think it's a really important point to keep in mind, is it's different for different challenges. I don't think we should be looking for one size fits all, and I think it's really important to recognize that different types of challenges might need to do different things, and people proposing in a particular kind of challenge might need different kinds of support than other challenges. I'm aware that some Fund 8 challenges, at least, built quite a community because they were quite a tightly focused challenge, whereas, say, in the miscellaneous, we had all kinds, and it's just different needs. So I think we just need to be really conscious of that.
Thank you, Vanessa. Newman?
Yeah, I can echo that. The differences, what Tommy was saying about what goes on in the middle, what Vanessa was saying, that the different challenges posed different sort of challenges. Needs had different needs. I think that what I can say is that it wasn't like the proposers and proposals and projects were sort of beating down our doors. Like no one ever sought us out. The interactions that were, we really needed to be more, or I mean, could we be more aggressive? Maybe not the right word, but more assertive in reaching out and asking them. And it seems like that sentiment was in the other challenge team reports that I've seen.
I wonder whether, just to sort of input into that idea, as we shift into this process with statement of milestones being applied to all projects, there's more of a touch point at the point of milestone delivery, right? That then the challenge teams or community reviewers can have that interface with the funded projects more regularly.
I just to follow up just real quick, I wonder, because I expected that the projects would want to talk about their projects, like that they would be like really chomping at the bit to like have somebody engage with them. Like I thought that they would be a willing partner, and it just didn't seem. It seemed like we were sort of in the way, or kind of like a bad date where we don't really know what is going on, and the needs or aims of the other person, and it seemed a little more awkward and stilted. the milestones may help make the common, the common ground of saying, oh, look, you've got to fill out this. And yeah, but there was reporting, the monthly reporting. I figured that people would be happy to be like, oh, look, this is what's going on in my monthly report and here are my challenges. But it was more like, something that they just sort of did. And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. My intention isn't to upset or, but it is something that I felt. It was just something just to report.
Not at all. Like, if you're feeling this and this is part of your experience, then it's a safe bet to assume others may well have had a similar feeling from it.
Thank you, Newman. Afia?
I was also thinking that to add to all that Vanessa and Newman has said, I was also thinking about the time frame for the team to work, the challenge team to work. Working during the duration of the last challenge project period. Some projects have 2 months, 3 months, and all that kind of duration. So what's the time frame for the challenge team to work, to monitor the projects? Are they supposed to finish their work when the last project is completed and all those things? So I think there's something that we have to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Afia. Lee?
Hey, how's everybody doing today? Kind of some of my retrospectives from it were that, I was recruited onto it. I was on DApps and integration. And I would say I had a pretty poor experience. On my challenge team, I was told pretty much like, just go leave some reviews, leave some comments on the proposals in your challenge setting, reach out to some of the people, see if they need any help. So, I did. I reached out to several projects on IdeaScale. I never heard anything back. And outside of that, my experience was like, okay, well, what do you need me to do? Nothing. This is kind of just a waiting period. And then no work was ever assigned or any task was really given to me. I feel like if we want these challenge teams to be successful, they need to have an interface for them, right? They need to know what their goals and roles are. So like, maybe a site that you can log into that has all the tools there for you, right? Like one of the things they were talking about were editing videos. Well, if you don't have video editing software or any of those tools, that's a huge hurdle. So if you have a platform that you can sign into and that your team lead can say, hey, here's your job board, these are your tasks, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to follow up with. And then even on that site where like you need to go down and edit videos to get that information or timestamp it, have all those tools right in that platform. Otherwise, we're kind of just going to be doing the same thing over and over again every funding round. How are you going to onboard new people to the challenge teams if you don't have these tools there? Like, how easy is that going to be? What is the feasibility that the majority of the team is going to be on the same page? So that's kind of my retrospective from it.
Thanks, Lee. Really useful.
Thank you. Harsha?
Hi. So I wanted to, me and Newman worked on multiple challenge teams through different funds. So I want to bring up a couple of things that we tried out. Specifically, I was under the impression that the rules around challenge teams were not put in stone so that we have some space to experiment. So what we did was we tried to do some community building activities with the challenge, not the challenge, with the challenge, everyone included in the challenge. And there was a clear difference. For example, we were in the F7 challenge team, F8 challenge team, and F9 Davos Cardano challenge team. F7, we could not reach anyone. We wrote to them, there was no communication. But in F8, we conducted community building activities like proposal fairs, education sessions, and stuff like that. And through these sessions, we were able to build a relationship with proposers. And also, whenever there was a chance, we joined their Discords and we built a personal relationship. So in those cases, I feel like the proposers feel slightly more accountable to us, or at least they consider as people that they can talk to. So I just think like activities like this like really help. I had a couple of other things in my mind, but my mind just like went blank. So
don't worry, Harsha, we have a time. So if he comes back, you can come back to it. I absolutely hear you there. Thank you for sharing. Jose?
I was part of 2 challenges team in Fund 8. And in both cases, my experience was similar to what others have shared today. Like I could divide it in 3 stages. Like the first stage where we were seeking for the proof of life and just getting everyone together. It was very successful. The team was very proactive, very present, and we managed to work very well. One of the good things that came out of it is that when we started, it was people that didn't know each other, and then today we have close relationships with among us. So as a networking unintended consequence, it's a nice thing. Then there's this second stage in which we're trying to like follow up on how projects are doing, how proposals are going, and trying to bring the community together. And it was hard to reach to people. IdeaScale was proved not to be a good tool. So we created a Telegram group and we tried to have meetings, and there was really no traction there. Then a long time passed because it's been, I don't know, maybe like 10 months or so since we started Fund 8. And then we're in the final stage where we're trying to create the closeout report, and the team came back together. And but having the information complete is not hard, is not easy, because sometimes you find that the projects have sent the information directly to IOG or to someone in Catalyst, and then they bypassed you because you weren't really adding any value as a team. And so you sometimes creating the report, you even have to reach out to the official reports that are on the Catalyst page to bring the information out of there. So the closeout report is not really adding value in some cases. So that was the experience was similar in both cases. In one case, the nature of the challenge, which was the community advisors improvements challenge. Everyone there was senior. Everyone there knew what they were doing. They really weren't needing any support from any of us. So we could understand that they wanted to fly alone. And the other one was the complete opposite. So it was like a new members onboarding challenge. And there was a lot of initiatives and a lot of opportunity to create a community. And that's where I think we have an opportunity to get better at the community building as a value added from the challenge team. Yeah, that's it from my side.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jose. Thank you for sharing. Quasar.
Hi, good morning. If I back in Fund 7, Steve Lockhart and I Steve sent messages to all of the proposers in the Grow Latin America challenge to do Twitter Spaces for them to come and pitch their ideas. That worked pretty well. We had great feedback, and he reached out via IdeaScale. So like others have said, each challenge is going to require something different, but all of the proposers in each challenge are different as well. So I think making it normalizing multiple processes to engage helps a lot. If we take challenge teams and break them down from pre-funding to post-funding, I think it's really 2 different roles. It feels like there's a lot going on there. And even if we step back one, another layer at the launch of a fund, the town hall slides, all, for each challenge team and the challenges, there's different contact information. It's hard to find all of that in one spot. So I feel like we could make some improvements on those slides. I personally, this is my opinion, I'd like to see them all, all the same theme and everything. That way it looks like it's more official. Everybody submitting their own styles just looks, it presents in a way that may not seem official. So
what part of that do you want to see sort of standardized, Quasar, like the reporting, or what?
No, sir.
Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, when we do a launch, introduction to fund 10, so if you take fund 7, 8, and 9, all of the slides are, different from each challenge team. So it doesn't feel like it's, so I really feel like there's a pre-funding and a post-funding. These are two different roles. That's I'm going to stop there. Much like Harsha, I had more things to say, but
Thank you, Quasar.
Thank you.
Tommy?
Yeah, so I have a suggestion. And I'm first going to approach this from Cardano for Seniors Fund 8 proposal, successful proposal. I was never contacted by the challenge team until it was time to report. So the challenge team that was in charge of our fund, to me, was useless or gone or transparent for me. I don't know what they did for other proposers. One of the things I've noticed in doing a small startup proposal like Cardano for Seniors is forming the team. And you really, as an entrepreneur, I never really thought about the budget for doing all the meetings, the reports. We did do a closeout video. So you never really think about it. And I think other teams are probably similar. Now, switching back to the challenge team hat, we as a team, I think, get 2,500 ADA or $2,500. What if, because no one likes to have money that you don't spend, what if that $2,500, and I think it's not enough, I think it needs to be more to make challenge teams more viable. What if that was forced into every proposer's budget? That they must have X number of dollars for these meetings and budget and closeouts that they're not even thinking about, and put the dollar amount for the challenge team into their proposals that they have to spend. When they're spending it, they're going to pay more attention to the challenge team members. And I think the challenge team members may be more proactive if they know that their constituency are the ones that are actually paying them. So that would be my suggestion, is reverse wherever the budget comes for the challenge team, reverse it and put it into mandatory into the proposals.
Thank you, Tommy. Vanessa?
That's a really interesting idea, Tommy. It's funny, it's kind of links with what I was going to say. I mean, first of all, proposers do write monthly reports, and asking them to then take time out to come and just repeat their report to their challenge team, it's a big overhead, especially for small projects. I feel that, challenge teams could be reading people's monthly reports to keep abreast of what's happening and approaching them with like relevant targeted questions if there's an issue or if there's something we want to know more about or something they're doing really well, and sharing that amongst the rest of the proposals in our challenge, things like that. And also then listening more to what help and support they actually need rather than trying to shoehorn them into what we think they ought to need. in MISC Fund 8, up to a point, we kind of divvied the proposals up between us a bit, and we tried to have a certain degree of a personal relationship and awareness of what our handful of projects were doing. We kind of did it a little bit late, but we did do it and it was kind of interesting. It might not work for all challenges, but it is an idea. And it's a kind of similar approach to that of many funders in the outside world. They call them grant officers or similar terms. And it works really well to have a named person that you can go to on your kind of challenge team. Leaning on from that, the overhead for small, like under 10K projects is exactly the same as it is for a 100K project in terms of meeting with your challenge team, reporting, doing all that stuff. I think we need to be thinking a bit about what we require from small projects compared to big budget ones, because I think a lot of times they don't come to meetings or get involved because they haven't got enough budget. How are they going to pay themselves for that time? Should we be asking them to do that? And I think challenge teams should be a bit more proactive. Go and read the monthly reports, keep abreast of what they're doing. And yeah, admittedly, you can't on a challenge team do that for every single proposal. So split them up between you and have a named person.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vanessa. Quasar, and let's tee it up, maybe one or two more, so we can have a look at the demo before we then have a session with Stephen. So Quasar.
Thank you. Since the Catalyst Circle doesn't really have a sub circle of funded proposers, and not that challenge teams was part of funded proposers, but I don't feel like there's really been a representative or voice for challenge teams. And then how does that go into the, to the post-funding part of funded proposers? There's some gaps that I see there.
Thank you, Quasar. Harsha?
Just based on what I heard before, I think accountability for individual challenge team members is important. Otherwise, there are like team members that might go on the ride without actually contributing enough. And this might actually demotivate some of the team members that are doing all the work. So, yeah.
Thank you, Harsha. Anyone else wants to chime in before we move to the next segment? Quasar, did you still want to? You have a hand up? No? Okay. All right, Chris, you want to wrap up and see how we can transition to the next stage? I see there's also some additions on the board that we haven't spoken. It might be nice just to read them out and acknowledge a couple of those in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for everybody's benefit, CT's rules are not set in stone. Community building sessions early in the fund process builds rapport and relationships. Absolutely. We sort of covered this in the comments or in the discussion. CT should be reading proposers' monthly reports. This is all within the idea of things that we could do differently. Perhaps maybe dividing the proposals between the challenge team and let people build the more personal relationship. I mean, we haven't really heard any from Quasar or Pete about their experience in the Statement of Milestones pilot, but I would sort of argue that this is kind of, or reason at least, that this is somewhat being done currently and in Fund 9 Statement of Milestones pilot. Keen to hear what people think or what the experience has been so far on that, for sure. There's a long one here. Make the role of challenge team TCs, I guess it's challenge teams, valuable for funded proposals. Maybe allocate a percentage of the challenge team's fees in order to budget for the efforts and the resources and time needed to be spent within the funded project. So this explains about Singularity Net's deep funding, and that 25% of that should be used to purchase services from Singularity's marketplace. I kind of get it. there would need to be a really clear service proposition for sure. The teams would be needing to get something in return, I think. But yeah, it's certainly a good point. Comment here around, you know, would it be helpful for CTs to help in the progress report checking? Again, you know, within the statement of milestones pilot, that's certainly the intention. That, you know, there are communities' eyes that are looking at the milestone and evidence delivery. And that selection for CT should be based on accountability and community building experiments that they intend to test out. It's a good idea. Interesting. Yeah, okay, I'm going to stop there. Lucio, are you ready? You want to take over?
Yes, of course.
Cool.
Can you give me permission to share the screen, Danny?
Yeah, I think so. I think it should be enabled to everyone.
Okay.
But okay.
Yes, just a sec. Okay, see the script, the right script?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
See proposals on a screen.
Yes. So basically, this will be the module that will replace all the spreadsheets that we have right now in place and in use for the statement of milestones. So I will just showcase a bit the features that are there, and you will see basically in the near future, probably we will start publishing and migrating all the content that right now we have in the spreadsheets here, and we will start using it. So first of all, this tool is intended to be used by proposals in the first place, challenge teams, but also from us for the same reason. So you can see here basically the list of some sample proposals that were funded. And in this example here, the proposal one, you can see some basic information here about the budget, completion date, the link to idea scale, and so on. And also you can see here basically the milestone recap. You can see milestone 1, 2, 3, all the information related, some basic information related to each milestone. And these milestones were submitted by a proposer. That's the main thing. So we can see a detail here of a specific milestone, for example. And as a proposer, you can submit all the information structured exactly in the way we have right now in the spreadsheet, but with a better interface. And also you can see here the reviews made by challenge team. Like, for example, here there is an approval for this specific part of the milestone with a comment. Obviously, all the content that you are seeing here, it's just a test one. On the bottom, there is the part for the POA, so for the proof of achievement. And the mechanism, it's kind of similar, no? For each proof of achievement, there is a review. So there is a counter for approval or refusals. And there is also the basically the details for the reason of an approval or for a refusal. Something that it's really important, probably it will be really useful for proposals, is this box here that will show based on the current information. So for example, POA that was signed up, so finally approved, and based on the funds that were already distributed, there is the projection of the next payment. And also with some detail here about for what reason I'm receiving $40K. It's because I completed the POA one, so this one, and also because I will get the first batch for the next milestone. I will show you another thing that will be interesting, probably. Obviously, this is intended. Each challenge team member will have his own account here. So you are basically acting as an individual, even if you are part of a challenge. And something that it's interesting here is as challenge team member, I have this notification page here, and I can see that there is a statement of milestone that I have to review, because if I go there, I will see that basically a proposer submitted a statement of milestone, so there is the need for a review for it. So instead of checking Telegram now and talking about I don't know, looking at what I have to review, what's going on, it's that there is a specific tab for this, and this will apply, of course, also for proof of achievement. And also it's important, even from the proposer perspective, there will be the same thing, no? Because you as a proposer, you can see that you received a review for a specific statement of milestone or for a POA. I think that's it in general. And I don't know if you have any question about this.
I'm certainly keen to gather people's immediate feedback. What do people think?
It certainly looks
I don't
like
those colors at all. I'm kidding you.
It certainly is it's an easier thing to administer than the yeah.
One thing, sorry, just I want to highlight something. This will be public, no? So even from a generic community user perspective, it will be important because everybody can see what was paid for what are the next steps, what are the reviews, and obviously it's really easier to check something like this than a bunch of spreadsheets spares in the web.
Yeah, and it's in the realm of the things. How can we spend less time on the adminning and tracking information, and how can we actually use the time of everyone involved that we can actually deliver value to the project? So we can be spending more time on like, how can we support the projects? Like, how can we spend more time in that direction rather than Control F spreadsheets and trying to figure out what where and trying to match the locations. So on the tone of the colors, obviously it's the MVP version of it. We're not too fussed about the interface just yet. It's more about form and function at this point, trying to figure out how to build those fundamental pieces and how it will work. And I'm pretty sure in the next iterations we'll be looking forward to see how to iterate on it as well. So really excited to see the feedback.
So of course the data behind it is still very much available, Lucio, and accessible. Yeah. So people can get exports overall of the data behind it. Yeah.
In theory, we need to check this, but there is an API behind it. So in theory, you can expose it. It's not part of the first MVP for sure, but it should not be too much complicated. So maybe for sure we can export things easily because we also use for some internal process some exports. So you can always provide some snapshot of the data. I guess, I don't know, the ideal way is to have an API so everybody can just attach to it and use it.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to sort of point out is we're going through a process of designing and re-architecting the data structure across the whole of Catalyst, right? So if we're committed to fulfilling promise to deliver a more unified experience, that sort of starts with a more complete and joined up data structure. What that then enables is so much so much in the ways of APIs and just calls and services that can be made available and it's open source to some extent. Tommy.
Yeah, question. I understand the genesis and everything of the milestones. What of the smaller funds proposals that may not have the startup capital? I believe the milestones is only for over X dollars, but are we going to continue to advance funds to the smaller startups that may actually need that to kickstart their team forming and stuff?
So for Fund 10, the plan is obviously, you know, on the strength of the SVE and everything, but the intention is to put all projects onto the milestone-based funding approach. With, you know, an acknowledgement in Fund 9, you know, we sort of suggested that all projects should put 3 to 4 or 5 milestones in place. Really, it was kind of like 4 milestones. There was kind of like an informal 5th one for the final output. Actually, a lot of teams just did 3. You know, we need to acknowledge that there's different levels of complexities at different scales of projects, right? So a project under 20K probably doesn't need 5 milestones. Maybe 2's enough. But a project over 20K, you would expect to have more milestones. So, you know, it's got to be reasonable within the conditions. And what we sort of found with Fund 9 is we try to set some, you know, some constraints, and then we want to see what the response was to that. And I think, you know, we now can be confident that we can give carte blanche, but there needs to be some guidance that, you know, under this amount, you would expect there to be this amount of milestones, over this amount would be this, right? Otherwise, we would have got like $400,000 projects just saying 1 milestone. If there was total freedom, right? That's what would happen.
Yeah, it's just probably undermines there's not one size fits all, and looking through that lenses will be quite important. Q, so Quasar, I'll give you a floor. Just no, you were good. Awesome.
Yeah, I can wait. I'll add it as a comment.
No problem. We are at 49. I did promise Stephen some time as well. So if you're ready, Stephen, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I mean, very quickly.
Carry over to you, and feel free to take the screen.
Yeah, sure. I won't cover the amount of detail in the morning. Basically, if people are interested, there's a link there to the complete presentation and documentation. Really, I was contextualizing the issue of remuneration in challenge teams in an ethical context, referring to a 2022 paper called The Ethics of Blockchains in Organizations, which looks at decentralized people operations and trying to link that into our thinking on volunteer. But for the purpose, really the important thing is to get people's views on remuneration. So if I can just share this slide, can you see that? Hold on a sec.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so if I just jump straight to this, and then maybe we can have like a broad conversation, because I suppose that's the most valuable given the time that we have. Okay, factors informing remuneration for challenge teams. Number of proposals, the number and experience of challenge team members, which have been referred to, which is also the composition, experience and mentorship required in each team. The amount of support each proposal may need, which includes the work required to engage with each proposal. As has been referred to already, actually, some proposers will be more familiar with the process than others. So should there be more remuneration there, that kind of thing. The timing of payments is really important to sustain and support participation. And this is more about, the challenge team has done some work, it needs to, should it be paid more in a timely manner, like you've done the work and then you've been paid for the work. The scale of the budget and the expected level of scrutiny. And this relates to, again, I think conversations about, is it a small proposal or a large proposal? If it's a large proposal with a bigger budget, then there may be a more of a responsibility to provide better reporting and more in-depth reporting. While on the other hand, a smaller, as I think we discussed this morning, smaller proposals also often need more hand-holding and more mentorship required. So there's also that aspect as well. And then finally, given that we're introducing here new procedures, which are great, the milestones and all that, there's also the associated administrative burden or workload with that. For example, the time spent on proof of life, presentations, milestone statements, and proof of completion. So really that's it. And I think what would be most valuable is just to put it back to the floor to say what people think about remuneration and their own issues. So I guess there's no thoughts about remuneration or anyone.
I think you did share the links as well. So
Yeah.
for like a deeper thought, people coming back to it, they'll be able, I think it's in the chat. It is also embedded now on the Miro board. So if you bookmark the Miro board, you'll be able to come back and pick it up as well, because it was on topic today, just as a point of order. Quasar?
Thank you. In regards to the remuneration, I don't know if this is even possible, but with challenge teams, because there's a lot of work up front, and then also a long tail coverage, after post funding, is there any way to build in remuneration towards the front end of a challenge before it's over? Because this is, service and maintenance, infrastructure type stuff. So to sign up for a challenge team and then wait 3-6 months or 2 years to receive that remuneration is quite difficult for a lot of people.
I mean, it should never be 2 years, right? It should.
Well, it shouldn't, but
Yeah, I think
I'm on a challenge team and from Fund 7, and it was a year and a half. It shouldn't be, but we're figuring this out as we go.
I think you can, Chris, maybe reiterate in the morning, we talked about what kinds of maybe constraints for Fund 10, so that we don't have projects. Maybe Project Catalyst is not currently suited for like a 2-3 year projects either, which also might help with some of those time boundaries and expectations within the workload going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to pick up on that. So, the spirit of Catalyst is really grassroots, bottom-up innovation, right? If you're looking for really large scale-up funding, like $500,000 or more, or even several $100,000, the sorts of expertise that's really required to be able to risk assess, is this project viable, is different to the current processes that we have within Catalyst. I think, we'll talk about it more as details come out within the SVE and plans for Fund 10 and beyond. But things need to be reasonable, particularly for the support roles like challenge teams and whatnot, right? So if someone's got a 3-year project, well, what are you expected to be involved for 3 years? I mean, never mind that, but the world's very different in 6 months, let alone 36 months, right? So what we're intending on proposing is that, project proposals should be expected to be complete within between 2 to 12 months. And if your project is a 2-year project, it can probably be broken down. It probably doesn't need to be approved and start receiving funding for the whole bunch. It should be able to be, well, this is what we've got planned for 2023. Then we're going to propose something for 2024, right? And along that way, you're building up track record and history and confidence and traction and all this kind of good stuff. But how it applies to you guys would be, well, you then have a clearer line of sight on what the expectation should be, right? And know that there's 5 milestones that are going to be coming up every 2 months or something like that. Yeah, I think that's more towards the spirit of Catalyst. And when we're looking at these larger scale projects proposals for much multi-year, much larger sums, necessarily it probably needs to follow a different process for decision making. And I think we'll probably get, and this is why it's important that we have a voice at the table around these Voltaire discussions, because we're the ones that see it, right? Within Catalyst, we're seeing the projects and the differences between, a 20K project and a 400K project, and the needs and requirements to assess whether or not it's achievable, feasible, viable, going to deliver value. Right, I can always come back to Carl Henry. For $4,000, he delivered AdaPay, which is potentially an enabler for millions of websites. And then we look at I'm not saying that there aren't valuable projects in the upper limits, but the point is that if we're trying to have some sort of meritocratic basis for what we're all doing, you know, proof's in the pudding. Deliver what you say you're going to deliver, and that should then enable you to then unlock additional funds. Never mind that, but you know, traditional accelerators, incubators, VCs, all these other good things that are, you know, very, very much available. It's really easy just to get locked into this idea that Catalyst is the be all and end all of where your resources and support should come from. And we want to make sure that we're, you know, building for scalability in the future. And this will mean bringing on these sorts of other partners and providing pipelines and feeders into all this stuff, of which challenge teams play a really vital role, or community reviewers will play a really vital role in helping to validate and verify that these teams are doing what they say they're doing. And all of that builds a body of evidence for when they want to go to investors or accelerators or other programs, or, you know, go to the MBO with their $500,000, $1 million, $4 million proposal, right? That's just some of the thinking around them.
Yeah,
there's two different worlds there, though, Chris, isn't there? I mean, I think you're right to connect it to volunteer, and because that's obviously start the conversation going on about how we can decentralize the apportionment of funds from Treasury, and so that's relevant to, of course, the milestones, like, you know, like so. You know, proposers actually, you know, being accountable to say, look, you know, we're drawing this down, and so therefore we have to report. But complementary to that, there's also how do we handle the resource, the decentralized resource that is supporting that, and that is not the same thing necessarily. So because, you know, we don't want to add a burden of, like, if we're getting people involved in challenge teams, that's great. Really want, there's the incentive, that's more of an incentivization issue, isn't it? Rather than, you know, we want expecting challenge teams to prove what they've done. The kind of proof is in how effectively they're delivering the their oversight, if you like.
Yeah, no, sorry, not the challenge teams proving what they've done. The funded proposers is what I think I'm most I mean most. You know, I think what we've learned from the Fund 9 Milestones pilot is that role of playing, you know, the advocate of or the devil's advocate, has the project done what it says it was going to do at this point, is super important. And that's the capability that I think we really, really need to grow, so that, you know, there's great lessons that can be learned from the general challenge and outputs. And, you know, we've heard some really, really valuable things now over the previous closeouts from challenge teams. But, you know, what I'm also hearing is that you want to have more interaction and interface and dive into the nuts and bolts of the funded projects. And, you know, the joining of the gap there is this sort of proof of achievement moment. And that's where, you know, that's where the greatest risk lies as well, right? If we don't have people and we don't have resources available to be able to do that piece, then, you know, Treasury funds get misspent. If we don't, and then, you know, conversely, challenge teams don't need to demonstrate that their value so much, and their reason for being and their proof of purpose, because, you know, part of that function of the community review is to and, you know, the main function is to make sure that projects are doing what they say that we're doing, which is kind of the intention with challenge teams, kind of, right? If we step back, intention was like, you guys kind of become stewards of the challenge, and you help to be the beacon and the point of contact for those funded projects during the delivery. And
sorry, Chris, great exposition and everything, but the people have got their hands up as well. So can we move on to some,
Yeah, I was about to say,
Quasar or Anna Maria or Tommy.
yeah, we are, just to regroup, we are at the top of the hour, so let's cater to the hands up that we have. Let's try to be brief, and then we can wrap up what we did today and then look what the next steps could be. So Anna Maria and Rares, please.
Quasar, you also had your hand up.
Oh, he disappeared from my screen.
I did, but I figured I would just lower it. I'll add it to the board later.
Okay.
Thank you.
So We just wanted to add to what Chris has said. We mostly agree with your statement, Chris, but in practice, things might not play out as neatly as you've presented them and we'll offer two counter arguments. One, you mentioned other sources of funding like VCs, and in our experience and in the NFT Guild, we've been talking with a lot of actual Cardano builders like NMaker and other people launching actual businesses or wanting to launch actual businesses. And what we're hearing from a lot of them is that the truth is that most of the VCs don't even want to talk to projects building on Cardano. So that makes Catalyst a much more important source of funding for a lot of the builders of the ecosystem. That's one. I'm not saying you're wrong, and maybe things will change in the future. Hopefully they will change in the future, but that seems to be the case for now. And hopefully, like you pointed out, maybe there'll be some mechanism for the MBO to fund bigger projects directly, and that certainly has the potential to change a lot of the ways we look at Catalyst and a lot of the ways builders in general on Cardano look at Catalyst. And the second point was that while your argument for splitting up larger projects is valid, it can also backfire and lead to potentially lost treasury funds, in the sense that a project, if it's not exactly built into two operational phases, like each one delivering an exact product, at the end of a 1 year or let's say 6 month cycle, we may end up with a half delivered or a project under construction that's not going to be able to receive funding to complete that project. And life moves on, right? If you're not able to continue working on the project, maybe some teams will continue developing it, maybe others won't be able to develop it. And here we're speaking as of funded proposers who did exactly that, right? We had a project in Fund 8, we submitted in Fund 8, we got funded for half the amount, we split it up. And then in Fund 9, because as you said, things change in 6 months, we didn't get the funding to complete the rest of the project. We're still building the project, but at a slower pace. And maybe we'll get the funding in Fund 10, but that's not really the point. The point is that maybe we'll end up in a situation where we unintentionally waste a lot of the treasury funds due to uncompleted projects. So maybe there needs to be a kind of a limit to this kind of project splitting. Like or not necessarily a monetary limit, but some other type of limiting factors, or for projects, let's say over 200,000 K, or of projects under would be discouraged to split their projects. Our project was a lot under, like it was for just 50K, but we did split it anyway, which in retrospect didn't end up to be the best decision, because we could have easily got funded for the whole amount in Fund 8, but in Fund 9 we weren't funded for the second part of what we were requesting. So that's a bit of a nuance to what you were saying, but which otherwise was well structured and of course could lead to good outcomes. But these are two additional factors to maybe consider. Yeah.
Thank you, Raz. Very valuable input. Tommy, you get the honors to be the last today.
You know, the first and the
wisdom
last. The first and the last. I'm so privileged. This high level view, the overview is fantastic. The input by everybody, awesome. Quasar's thought about auditing, we know we have to audit. Vanessa's, I don't want to really speak for her, but my interpretation is the challenge teams need to be handholders at the beginning. Chris's thing about other financing and other things, all valid points. The meeting, my understanding of the meeting, and we're still waffling really on what the challenge team is. I don't think there's a definition or a best practices of actually what the challenge team should be functioning as. So I'd like to kind of pull everything back in from the 1,000-foot view, come down to ground level, perhaps continue this somewhere. But I think there need to be principles of what the challenge team is, where the beginning responsibility starts, and where the handoff, if there is a handoff to an audit team, begins. I think those are important. Otherwise, we'll have 100 different suggestions from 10 people, and they're all great suggestions, but we need to nail this down and stop waffling and come up with what the challenge team is. Final closeout thoughts. Thank you, everybody. Great input. Danny, Chris, as usual, you guys are unsung heroes. You guys are fantastic, and keep on keeping on. Both of you should get some more sleep.
Appreciate you, Tommy. I agree on the sleep, and we're just trying as always to keep up with everyone, but I appreciate your kind words. So again, we are at the time. I think we appreciate everybody's time that was able to come in this session and also in the morning one. I see a few people were here in both of them. To recap, I will try to post both of the recordings as fast as possible. I will share them surely via email and via Telegram chat. I'll see to put it perhaps also, I think, who was it? Stephen has mentioned the dashboard. I'll see if I can put it there as well. I may run out of hours today, so I'll do it at the latest on Monday, because I will be out of office tomorrow and everything is a little tight to my account on the Zoom account. But by Monday, I'm planning to make sure that everybody has that distributed. Miro board is going to remain accessible. We will lock it down later today for edits. So if there's any other outstanding thoughts, things that you also saw in the chat and you wanted to capture, please do so that we can have it there as well. And I'll be looking forward on having you doing a great work between and everything in between in Catalyst as you have so far. So thank you for entertaining us today for the call, and I hope that it was a productive session for everyone, and that we were able to learn some of the new things and opportunities that lay in front of us. So again, thank you very much. Chris?
I just want to echo all of that, everybody's input and contributions is just invaluable, and to really appreciate every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you guys are so sweet.
Not you,
Bye, everybody.